Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Amritpal Singh. Coming up in the next 30 minutes, India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi unveils multiple development projects at Prayagraj in Uttar Pradesh, inspects development works for Mahakumbh Mela 2025. India and the UAE hold the 15th India-UAE Joint Commission meeting in New Delhi. Various facets of the comprehensive strategic partnership discussed. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken stresses upon continued efforts to counter any resurgence of Islamic State in Syria.
We also discussed the imperative of continuing the efforts to keep ISIS down.
First up, the news about Indian Prime Minister's visit to the city of Prayagraj, which is a city in the northern Indian state of Uttar Pradesh. He inaugurated or launched multiple development projects worth 5,500 crore rupees for the Mahakumbh 2025. The projects launched include various rail and road works like 10 new road over bridges or flyovers, permanent ghats and riverfront roads to boost infrastructure and provide seamless connectivity in Prayagraj. Prime Minister also inaugurated projects for River Ganga that aim to ensure zero discharge of untreated water into the river. Various infrastructure projects related to drinking water and power were also inaugurated. Major temple corridors were inaugurated by the Prime Minister for ease of access to devotees with an aim to boost spiritual tourism in the region. The Prime Minister launched the Kumbh Sahayak chatbot that will provide details to give guidance and updates on the events of the Mahakumbh.
महाकुंभ हजारों वर्ष पहले से चली आ रही हमारे देश की सांस्कृतिक आध्यात्मिक यात्रा का पुण्य और जीवंत प्रतीक है। यहां आकर संत महंत, ऋषि मुनि, ज्ञानी विद्वान, सामान्य मानवी सब एक हो जाते हैं। यहां जातियों का भेद खत्म हो जाता है, संप्रदायों का टकराव मिट जाता है। करोड़ों लोग एक थे, एक विचार से जुड़ जाते हैं और इसलिए मैं फिर एक बार कहता हूं, ये महाकुंभ एकता का महायज्ञ है।
Upon his arrival in Prayagraj, Prime Minister Modi was greeted by the saints at the Sangam, where he performed a religious prayer. He was accompanied by the Chief Minister of the state, Yogi Adityanath. Sangam is the confluence of the Ganges, Yamuna and the mythical Saraswati rivers in Prayagraj. Following the prayer at the Sangam, the Prime Minister also offered prayers at the sacred tree in the Hindu temple Akshavat, along with the Chief Minister, the Deputy Chief Ministers of the state and the Governor of the state. The Prime Minister then offered prayers at Prayagraj's Lete Hanuman temple, where he was briefed about the temple alongside its model. The Prime Minister then visited the Mahakumbh exhibition and he walked around the display area. Indians in Canada have been advised by the government to exercise caution given the deteriorating security situation there. The spokesperson of the Ministry of External Affairs said that 3 Indian students were killed in Canada recently, and there are over 4 lakh Indian students currently studying in Canada. He added that the Canadian media is running a disinformation campaign against the Indian government or India on the issue of issuance of visas.
3 Indian students have been murdered in violent crimes. We are deeply saddened by these terrible tragedies that have struck our nationals in Canada. We extend our deepest condolences to the families, grieving families. Our High Commission in Ottawa and our consulates in Vancouver and Toronto, they are in touch with the families. They are also pushing very hard with following up with the local authorities for thorough investigation in the matter. We have also issued advisory for our nationals and our students to exercise extreme caution and remain vigilant in view of the deteriorating security environment in Canada as a result of the growing incidence of hate crimes and criminal violence.
The 15th India-UAE Joint Commission meeting was held in New Delhi today. It was co-chaired by External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar and UAE's Deputy Prime Minister, who is also the Foreign Minister, Sheikh Abdullah bin Zayed Al Nahyan. In his opening remarks, Jaishankar said that the strategic partnership between the two countries is a model of relationship, adding that the frequency of meetings between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan have created confidence among the leaders, put the bilateral relations on a strong footing. External Affairs Minister Jaishankar said that as a result, the trade between the two countries is set to achieve a non-oil trade target of $100 billion US.
Our bilateral economic and commercial ties are not only very strong, but increasingly diversified and deep. Since the entry into force of the Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, CEPA, in May 2022, our trade has steadily grown and it has now reached a level of US $85 billion. The success of CEPA has spurred new initiatives like the Bharat Mart, the Virtual Trade Corridor, the Maitri interface, all of which will provide a further fillip to our trade and help us achieve the non-oil trade target of $100 billion in the coming years.
And on the sidelines of the Joint Commission meeting, a significant memorandum of understanding was signed between the Emirates Polar Mission Steering Committee of the UAE and the National Centre for Polar and Ocean Research of India. This agreement aims to foster cooperation in polar and oceanic research, promoting joint initiatives in polar operations, scientific research, academic collaborations and capacity building. The MOU reflects the growing partnership between India and the UAE in advancing scientific exploration and environmental stewardship in the polar regions. Turning focus to the Indian Parliament's proceedings, lower house of the Parliament held a special discussion on Friday marking 75 years of the Indian Constitution. The country's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh initiated the debate, accusing the Congress of taking undue credit for framing the Constitution. Congress MP Priyanka Gandhi Vadra made her debut speech responding to the allegations. Proceedings were later adjourned following a ruckus over remarks on Justice Loya's death. And India's Minister of State for External Affairs Kirti Vardhan Singh on Friday said that the central government has accorded highest priority to getting permanent membership for India in the United Nations Security Council. In a written reply to a question in the lower house on Friday, Singh said India remains engaged both at the bilateral and multilateral level for getting permanent membership, as it has all the credentials. The minister stressed that India engages actively in the ongoing intergovernmental negotiations on the Security Council reforms. He added that India is working alongside other reform-oriented countries through its membership of the G4 group and the L69 group to build support among the UN member states for expansion of the UN Security Council along with the Global South. He informed that a large number of countries have supported India's initiatives for reforms in the UNSC as well as endorsed its candidature for permanent membership. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Turkish Foreign Minister Hakan Fidan discussed on Friday the need for continued efforts to counter any resurgence of Islamic State in Syria following the fall of Assad. The talks also focused on a critical aspect of establishing stability in Syria, clashes in the north of the country between US-backed Kurdish forces and the Turkish-backed rebels.
There is broad agreement on what we would each like to see going forward, starting with the interim government in Syria, one that is inclusive and non-sectarian, one that protects the rights of minorities and women, one that preserves institutions of the state and delivers services to the people, one that deals with any chemical weapons it may find to secure them and appropriately destroy them, one that rejects any alliances with extremist groups, and, of course, one that does not pose any kind of threat to any of Syria's neighbors.
Both leaders also discussed the imperative of continuing the efforts to keep ISIS down.
We also discussed the imperative of continuing the efforts to keep ISIS down. Our countries worked very hard and gave a lot over many years to ensure the elimination of the territorial caliphate of ISIS, to ensure that that threat doesn't rear its head again, and it's imperative that we keep at those efforts.
We discussed what kind of roles both US and Turkey and regional actors need to play and what kind of cooperation that we need to be in, especially finding stability in Syria, not letting terrorism to settle and avoiding PKK and IS to be dominant. We discussed what can be done about those issues, what are our common worries and solutions regarding those worries.
Still to come on this edition of DD India Live, South Korean Parliament introduces the second motion to impeach President Yoon. China says it will not go soft on Taiwan independence activities. And the Pope meets with Lebanese Prime Minister Mikati in the Vatican.
So we begin our journey exploring the factories where cricket gear is made, uncovering the process that has made Meerut famous worldwide.
Meerut was one area which was allocated for sports industry.
They have done very well, they are making a cricket bat, cricket ball, RB pads, leather goods.
All around the world, they get their bats made in India. So you can imagine the kind of work they put in, and it's not an easy job.
There is a lot of hard work, a lot of craftsmanship, a lot of precision that goes inside the product.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
You're watching DD India Live. I'm Amritpal Singh. The European Commission announced the launch of an air bridge operation to deliver an initial 50 tons of health supplies to Syria via neighboring Turkey. The items from EU stockpiles in Dubai will be flown to Adana in Turkey for distribution in Syria in the coming days.
Given the very difficult humanitarian situation in Syria, we would like to announce that we are launching a new humanitarian air bridge operation for those most in need in the country. First of all, the EU-funded 8 flights will bring a total of 50 tons of health supplies, and this is stockpiled in Dubai and will be transferred to Adana in Turkey, from where the distribution across the borders with Turkey, the border of Turkey and Syria, will come in the upcoming days.
Okay, in a significant development, Syria's transitional Prime Minister Mohammed al-Bashir addressed the crowd as thousands of Syrians converged at the landmark Umayyad Mosque in Damascus for Friday. The new caretaker Prime Minister had run the rebel-led Salvation government before the 12-day lightning offensive that swept into Damascus. Earlier, Mohammed al-Bashir said he would lead the interim authority till March 1st. Pope Francis met with Lebanese Prime Minister and Interim President Najib Mikati at the Vatican. They discussed the Holy See-Lebanon relations, the country's socio-economic challenges, the prolonged presidential vacancy, and expressed satisfaction over recent ceasefire in southern Lebanon. On the recent evacuation operations from Syria of Indians, the Ministry of External Affairs spokesperson said that Indian embassies in Syria and Lebanon worked closely for evacuation of 77 Indians from Syria. He added that Indian embassy is still in close touch with the Indians who are still in Syria.
So far, 77 Indians have been evacuated. These were those who wanted to return. In addition, there are several other Indians who are settled there, married there, or are pursuing some vocation. They still continue to be in Syria. If they tomorrow wish to return, we will give them a helping hand as well.
The Kremlin on Friday praised the U.S. President-elect Donald Trump's criticism of Ukrainian strikes with U.S. missiles deep into Russian territory and said that the position was fully in line with Moscow's own position. Trump, remember, had criticized Ukraine's use of U.S.-supplied missiles for attacks deep into Russian territory in a Time magazine interview published on Thursday. His comments suggest that he could alter the U.S. policy towards Ukraine.
Trump's statement itself completely coincides with our position. So in this case, we share the same vision of the causes of escalation, of course. It appeals to us.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said on Friday that Russia launched a major missile and drone attack on Ukraine. He said that Russia launched 93 missiles and nearly 200 drones in one of its largest attacks on Ukraine's energy system. Zelensky said that Ukraine air defenses managed to shoot down 81 Russian missiles, including 11 missiles that were downed by F-16 fighter jets. Kiev residents took shelter in metro stations in the Ukrainian capital. Russian Defense Ministry said that attacks on Ukraine's energy infrastructure are in retaliation for Kiev's use of US-supplied ATACMS missiles. NATO head Mark Rutte has warned the US-led transatlantic alliance on Thursday that it was not ready for threats it would face from Russia in the coming years and called for a shift to a wartime mindset with much higher defense spending. Rutte said that NATO members had spent more than 3% of the GDP on defense during the Cold War, and future spending would have to be much higher than the current alliance target of 2%.
We are not ready for what is coming our way in 4 to 5 years. Danger is moving towards us at full speed. We can prevent the next big war on NATO territory and preserve our way of life. This requires us all to be faster and fiercer. It is time to shift to a wartime mindset and turbocharge our defense production and defense spending.
Meanwhile, Donald Trump has already said that he will not support NATO anymore, while dangling the idea that the United States could withdraw from NATO after he takes office next month. Okay, shifting focus to the South Korean political crisis, lawmakers formally submitted a second impeachment motion against President Yoon Suk-yeol in the South Korean parliament on Friday. The opposition parties that control the single-chamber parliament will hold the second impeachment vote on Saturday. They need at least 8 members of the ruling People Power Party to pass the bill with 2/3 majority required. A second motion was introduced after the first attempt to unseat and remove Yoon from office failed a week ago. Shifting focus to latest in China-Taiwan conflict, breaking its silence on the continuing military activities around Taiwan, Chinese Defense Ministry spokesman Wu Qian on Friday said that People's Liberation Army will not be absent and will not be soft in its fight against independence and for reunification. Qian further stated that it is China that decides whether or not to hold drills, and its military would not be absent in fighting against separatist forces.
It is the sacred duty of the People's Liberation Army to safeguard the sovereignty and territorial integrity of the state, to safeguard the fundamental interest of the Chinese people, and to safeguard the common interest of compatriots on both sides of Taiwan Strait. Just as water retains no constant shape, so in warfare there are no constant conditions. Whether or not to hold exercises and when to hold them is a matter for us to decide on our own according to our own needs and the situation of the struggle.
Meanwhile, tensions are also escalating between China and the Philippines as Beijing has accused the latter of provoking trouble in the South China Sea. The Chinese Defense Ministry spokesperson on Friday criticized the Philippines for stoking conflicts in the region, claiming that Manila, backed by Washington, D.C., is stirring unrest at multiple locations. This comes a week after the Philippines claimed that Chinese Coast Guard vessels fired water cannons and sideswiped a Manila Fisheries Bureau. A spokesperson for the Philippines National Maritime Council refuted China's claims, calling them baseless and illegal. India's Sports Minister Mansukh Mandavia congratulated D. Gukesh on winning the World Chess Championship. He lauded Gukesh for scripting history at such a young age and said that he is an inspiration for the country.
गुकेश ने वर्ल्ड चेस चैंपियनशिप 18 वर्ष की कम आयु में जीत के बहुत बड़ी सिद्धि हासिल करी है, अपना स्वयं का और देश का गौरव बढ़ाया है। मैं गुकेश को हार्दिक शुभेच्छाएं देता हूं और उसमें से प्रेरणा लेके हमारे देश के यंग एथलीट आगे बढ़े और प्रगति के रास्ते पे अपने के लिए भी सफलता को हासिल करें, ऐसी अपेक्षा है।
Under the aegis of the Special Olympics, Bharat, the National Youth Conclave 2024 was organized in Delhi. The platform focused on exploring opportunities in education and sports for intellectually capable athletes, as well as discussions on policies and initiatives. On this occasion, Economic Advisor from the Ministry of Education, A. Sirija, appreciated the efforts of the Special Olympics Bharat in integrating specially abled children into the mainstream society.
Special Olympics Bharat has been working intensively for the benefit of children with intellectual disabilities. So they have been in touch with the Ministry of Education in understanding more about the benefits that we are giving under Samagra Shiksha, and their youth leadership program is a unique program where they try to bring in a regular child with intellectual disability, and the two children are bonded. So this kind of youth leadership program which they are developing in the schools.
India's public broadcaster Prasar Bharati has recently launched its OTT platform Waves. Waves provides a complete infotainment ecosystem to digital media and OTT audience. If you also want great content for free, then download Waves today. And that's it in this edition of DD India Live, but do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on DD India's mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on your screens to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Amritpal Singh from my entire team here in Delhi. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.